Disco Elysium is one of the best games ever, and now Zero Parades, the spiritual successor, is here. But there's a problem. It's hard to make a good sequel. It's very hard to make a good sequel to one of the greatest games ever, and it's almost impossible to make a good sequel to one of the greatest games ever when you fire most of the original creative lead. Add on top the fact that it's despised by most of the OG fandom, to the point where even mentioning it on the Disco Elysium subreddit is not allowed, and you've got a game that was born to fail. But did it actually fail? Zero Parades for Dead Spies is finally here, and man, when the average fan tells you to pirate it instead of buying it, and the passionate ones call it God's biggest mistake, you know you're in for a ride. And this entire mess is happening because of massive corporate fraud. The CEO of Zom bought Disco Elysium 2 concept art for $1 and then sold it to the company for $4.8 million. Then he took the stolen money and bought more shares with it, taking control of the company and firing the original creative lead. Absolute fuckery. So clearly, the CEO is the bad guy. Almost. Robert Kurvitz, the lead designer and writer who got fired after the unfair takeover, wasn't exactly a model citizen. Belittling women, humiliating colleagues, toxic work environment, and a lot more allegations. Still, these are just allegations, but that $5 million robbery is real. And from the ashes of this mess rose Zero Parades. To set the tone, the game's description writes, from the creators of Disco Elysium, which is a complete fucking lie. Nonetheless, this is Disco Elysium 2. Different name, different setting, but the gameplay is practically the same. The problem is, Zero Parades isn't a game that depends on gameplay. It depends on writing. So, to be a worthy sequel, you're gonna need amazing writing. Zero Parades has good writing during its best moments, but a burning dumpster fire with a communist lesbian thrown into it during its worst moments. You assume the role of Herschel Wilk, known by her code name, Cascade. After a failed assignment, you were shelved and frozen for 5 years, only to suddenly wake up in the middle of a new assignment. The problem? Your partner is lying dead on the chair in your hideout and you know nothing. Fail and you're shelved forever. So the stakes are pretty high, and I'd say the game starts off quite strong. However, the game has a huge problem: world building. Disco had the advantage of you playing as someone who completely lost their memory. You don't even know your name at the start of the game, and that's perfect for role-playing. But Parades just throws you into this three-sided conflict and you don't know anything, and on top of that, you're a government agent with a rich history. And you don't know any of this history. When Herschel finds out one of her old colleagues is dead, she's shocked.
That's tough. He died, I think.
But you barely even care. If you're lucky, you at least get the occasional memory flashback so you know who the game is talking about. And if you're unlucky, the voiceover in the memory doesn't even play because it's so buggy. Which brings me to the second biggest problem of this game: the voiceovers. Both the narrator and some of the characters just don't sound very good. It's not bad, but combine it with the fact that sometimes the voiceover doesn't even play or the text doesn't match the audio.
I know about hiding. La Luz's invisible aircraft carriers. Weaponized nostalgia.
And the immersion falls apart immediately. To add insult to injury, the narrator just doesn't measure up to the OG one in Disco. You've got over 15 different emotions and skills, and at the very least, the ones based on interacting with people should not sound the same as the ones based on physicality. Just imagine if Half-Light and Volition sounded the same.
Look at his shit-eating grin. Kill him.
This wasn't necessary. What's going on here? Why are you doing that?
And don't even get me started on the edgy forced accent.
Uh-oh. Tempo didn't know they shelved you after 91. You thought you were still respected, revered even.
It has its moments, but most of the time it's just cringe. Other than that, and hold on to your seats when I say this, the game holds up. The soundtrack is decent, the other characters sound okay, and I haven't encountered any sort of gameplay related bugs. However, I don't think that Zero Parade should only be looked at in terms of how fun it is. Clearly passionate people worked on this game, but they were paid. There is absolutely no reason to spend money on this game because it was created from fraud. And even if some of the firing was justified, taking someone else's artistic vision, making a worse but still decent copy of it and selling it to people under the guise of it being made by the same team as Disco Elysium isn't respectable. It's soulless. Add on top the fact that this game didn't even try to reinvent the formula, and suddenly Zero Parade starts turning into the next Call of Duty. It already is in some ways. Harry and Herschel being very similar in terms of personality, even though one is just a depressed detective and the other a secret state agent. Colored backgrounds are missing from the portraits, which is a shame. They added a great amount of personality. The music is a nice backdrop, but it doesn't dare to actually be loud and set the atmosphere. If Chicken with Rice was a game, it would be Zero Parade. And if there's a channel worth subscribing to, it's this one. Thanks for watching.